See if we get some rapid fire between these two here tonight. Kelly Pavlik, now 30 years old, 6'2", came in at 167, is contending now as a super middleweight, currently ranked in the IBF number 8. BO's got him 8, BA's got him 9. Moved to super middleweight in May 2011. He's coming off a March win that has his camp buzzing. Cameron Duncan, his co-manager, said, looked tremendous. Best he's ever looked in his life, in fact. And Scott Sigmon, there he is, crowd booing him. He came into the theme song from Ghostbusters, as in he's going to bust the ghost. Kelly Pavlik went on an all-out media and online social media attack of Kelly Pavlik when he says he signed a contract to fight Pavlik in April, and Pavlik backed out. Glad to be joined ringside by Jalen Rose. Jalen, you had the chance to go visit with Kelly Pavlik in the locker room before this fight. He was all business and serious about some of the things that Scott Sigmon said. Well,
it's one thing to challenge a fighter. There's another thing to challenge a fighter's manhood. And when you do it on social media and you want to now get me into the ring, sometimes you get what you ask for. And maybe Cujo is going to get what he's asking for from the Ghost.
Glad to have you with us as Teddy joins us now.
Should have had him in the mob museum with the white pinstripe suit.
He always looks great on
your
sports
footage when we first came in, the old Tommy gun. All you were missing was the mothballs in your mouth.
Hey, an offer you can't refuse.
You just named his favorite movie of all time. 10 rounds they're scheduled for. We'll see if we get it between Pavlik and Sigmon. Jay Nady's the ref.
Now let's go to work.
Teddy, you think this could be a quick night?
Listen, I say it this way. Don't go to your refrigerator, and if you do, walk backwards. Look, we always try to be first class with the fans, and that means being honest at all times, no matter what, with the fans. And I just don't think, Sigmon, I think, is a game kid, but I don't think he belongs in the ring with the former world champion he's in there with tonight. Sigmon has lost to lower-level fighters, maybe C+ level fighters, and he's fighting someone who has beaten A-level fighters in his career.
A lot of his fights have come in places like Virginia and North Carolina, weaker commissions.
Oh, exactly. Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, all South, where you can build a record.
Jalen, sort of like those games when you were with the Fab Five at Michigan, you'd play in November.
Absolutely. And Sigmon, he's a very active fighter. I mean, this is his 11th fight in 16 months.
You don't see that much nowadays. Of course, at the higher level, all you're seeing is a pay-per-view somewhere in the spring, then a pay-per-view in the fall.
And he's never been stopped in his 3 losses. There's something to be said for that.
And there's something to be said, and you brought up a good point, how active he is. You can be active when you're fighting low-level fighters. You know, when you're fighting guys that really aren't pushing you too much, you can get in the ring every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks.
Well, he's self-managed.
And self-trained.
That's not a good thing.
Well, on the 1st and 15th, it can be when the purses come in.
You know, the forte of Pavlik getting to the middleweight title has always been the jab, controlling range, tall, rangy guy, good length. Looking to set up that, as I said in the fight plan, that 357 Magnum, the straight right hand. But I think that what's overlooked with Pavlik, he has a good left hand, not just a jab, a good left hook to the body and a sneaky one to the head. He can counter with it. He can do it off the jab.
The rap on Pavlik had always been his poor defense, but he says he solved that by counterpunching more.
He feels really good about where he is right now. Thinks that he's right on schedule for what he hopes to be a comeback to the top tier of the sport.
You know, Jay, you bring up, you show as always why you're one of the top commentators, analysts out there. You're prepared. You know, you came to a different sport, but you came here knowing what your subject was, what you were going to be talking about. And you're right, it has been talked about Pavlik's defense could be better. Where it is flawed maybe a little bit, or has been, and you probably won't see it tonight against this level of a fighter, but at the top levels, when you do see it, he handcuffs himself. You know, he looks to block punches. Sometimes he'll slip one time, but he'll come back to the middle. And by blocking punches, as I said, you put handcuffs on yourself. You allow opponents to put punches together on you.
some analogous to the NBA as well. We'll talk more about that with Jalen Rose when we return. End of one, Scott Sigmon and Pavlik. Joe Teddy and Jalen Rose joining us as our guest analyst tonight. In town for Pacquiao Bradley. You've been working some of these Pacquiao weigh-ins, I've been noticing. You did the Marquez one. You were over there today. Great energy when Pacquiao plays. Absolutely.
I was also fortunate enough to work Cotto versus Margarito. And when Manny Pacquiao's on the card, he brings out the masses. 90 million people in the Philippines stop what they're doing when he's fighting.
I think it's tough sometimes for the Americans to put it in perspective. He's sort of like Elvis and the Beatles rolled into one when it comes to the Philippines. Just an all-time iconic figure in his homeland. Round two here between Pavlik and Sigmon. We saw Teddy at the end of that round, Sigmon talking a lot of smack in the midst of the fight at the end of that first round. He's going to need to do more than that.
Talking about smack, there's people who have been known to do that in the sport that Jalen Rose was king in the basketball sport. There was some good smack talkers in that sport. Larry Bird wasn't a bad one, was he?
No, he was not. And the difference in basketball and trash talk, it's a team sport. So if you're a guard and you're talking trash, your power forward and center are actually supposed to back it up for you.
Yeah.
And the three officials are quickly there to break it up. So we joke that it's a hold me back moment. But when you're fighting mano-a-mano, there's no such thing as Cujo is learning.
And as he's learning is, I think, Pavlik does have a good left hook. He just staggered him with one a moment ago.
Pavlik's having his way here in the middle of this second round right now. It bloodied his nose and again, showing a little more power to him.
You're not going to see it. Yeah, you're not going to see it. He can do what he wants, I think, with this man in front of him. And again, Jalen brought up a good point that there has been, when there's been knocks on Pavlik, it's been in some of the defensive quarters throughout his career when he's been at the top level. And part of it is handcuffing himself, trying to block too much. And part of it has been that he doesn't make the transition from defense to offense. You know, he's doing one, like even there, he's doing one thing or he's doing the other. He's got to learn to do both and transition from one to another. You make the guy miss, make him pay.
But one thing he is doing very well, when you have a personal dislike for your opponent, you have to keep your discipline intact. You have to fight with the game plan, continue to box, not fight. And that's very tough to do when you don't like the guy that you're going against.
Yeah, but you know, fighters are brought up learning to do that, Jalen, because they understand very early, different from people that fight in the streets. They find out, and people that think they know something about this sport versus really knowing something, they find out if you get angry, you get hit. And guess what? That stems the anger.
Yeah, got to have that control.
Oh, yes, sir. You know, it's the sweet science, and it's called that for a reason. It's not just about brawn. It's about the mind and about the emotional control. Same thing in your sport, no different.
Just trying to smother instead of being on the other end of those right hands there as he jumps forward there. But Pavlik dominating that round. Of course, the Eastern Conference Finals, Saturday night, Game 7. Kia NBA countdown 7:30, and then Celtics Heat Game 7, 8:30. Jalen Rose, you've probably only been asked about 100,000 times in the past 24 hours. Who do you got? Celtics Heat. Give us something to look for beyond the obvious here. Obviously, if LeBron shoots the way he did the other night, we know what's going to happen. Nobody's topping that. Give us something to look for in Game 7.
The obvious is LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, our superstar players, playing on their home floor. And the Boston Celtics have a championship medal with their big four, Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. But when you're playing at home, the role players tend to play a lot better. That's Mario Chalmers. That's going to be Chris Bosh in this Game 7. That's Shane Battier knocking down jump shots, helping the helper on defense. Miami Heat are going to be very tough to beat on their home floor.
Now let me clue you in on a little something here on Friday Night Fights. The guy sitting to your right, when it comes to Super Bowls, World Series, anything non-boxing, has an unbelievable, maybe a higher winning percentage, projection percentage in the non-boxing sports than some of his big projections in the big fights. So, Teddy, your thoughts on Game 7, Celtics Heat?
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask Jalen Rose a question. You know, I know that LeBron James, and I would think you're going to agree with me, and that's that left hook hurting Sigmon. And Sigmon is...
He's just trying to hold on there.
Trying to survive now. I think that Pavlik decided maybe we're going to end this party now. I think he was carrying him a little bit, or possibly carrying him, and just feeling his way through and getting a couple rounds under his belt, figuring that he had the liberty to do that with the opponent in front of him. But
Don't grab, don't grab.
I feel that LeBron James is the best basketball player on the planet. Would you agree?
I do agree. He's the most versatile player. He's an all-defensive first-team performer also, and he makes his teammates better.
Here's my question. Is he mentally tough enough to close out a 7th game when it's all on the line? I know he's the best player, and he was the best player in the 6th game the other night. This is not the 6th game. This is the 7th game. If there's shadows and there's bats in the belfry and there's a little weakness of somebody mentally, this is where it shows up. Is it showing up?
I think it will show up. In Game 6 was like a Game 7 for the Miami Heat, because obviously if they lost that game, they were going home. And his numbers were tremendous. 45 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. The last person to do that, the only other person to do that in a playoff game, his name is Wilt Chamberlain. So that doesn't happen very often. And just like Pavlik here, LeBron James closed the show in the Garden. I anticipate that the Miami Heat are going to do the exact same thing.
I'm going with the Heat.
Teddy has spoken. Mark it down. Heat in Game 7.
And right now, I'd be going with the uppercut if I was Pavlik, because you got a short guy who's leaning forward. We talked about it in the fight plan a little bit. Take a little step back. Let him fall into an uppercut. And right now, Pavlik is allowing Sigmon to smother him a little bit. Give himself a little room. Take that step back as he does right there.
There's the space.
Get a little extension.
Sigmon closed it with a left hand for a moment. And now Sigmon with a looping right hand on the inside.
That Jalen brought up. You know, he disconnects a little bit. He goes defensive, but he goes defensive without any offense coming back. He allows Sigmon, even just a game Sigmon, not a top-level guy, not a real talented guy, but a game guy, to handcuff him, to get punches off, to have a moment, to hang in there.
Final minute of this 3rd round, by far Sigmon's best work, but still Pavlik in control. End of 3.
Everybody was looking for the right hand of Pavlik. There's the left hook upstairs. Sets up it nice downstairs, and then the right uppercut right there at the end. I think you need to look for that a little bit more. Left hook up top just to get the arm to move a little, Joe. And then quickly downstairs, crash the rib cage with the left hook.
Kelly Pavlik, 30 years old now, in the midst of his comeback. Had that stint at the Betty Ford Center, alcohol rehab. Now working himself up the ranks at 160 pounds, the former middleweight champion of the world.
And Pavlik at 6'2", 75-inch reach, has to find a way to not only stay active, but use it to his advantage, especially going against a fighter that's 5'9".
And it's really noticeable. I mean, on paper, obviously, you look at that when we were prepping for this fight this week, but then you see him in the ring and you see the physical stature and the advantages that Pavlik has.
Oh, Jalen, you're absolutely right. Look, because of the difference of experience and just pure athleticism, pure talent, frankly, Pavlik could beat him inside or outside, but he should be beating him the place that makes the most sense for him, where he has the greatest advantage, and that's on the outside. On the inside, he gives Sigmon a little opportunity. Be inside those wide shots.
Right here.
Yeah, and not have to deal so much. See, when Sigmon's inside, there's 2 things. One, he's inside the wide shot, so he doesn't have to deal with the extension. And he can touch Pavlik. He's got the short arms. He can use them inside. He cannot use them out there.
Teddy, watch a little bit of billy goating on the inside. Sigmon just a moment ago, I think, realized that the crown of the head may be a weapon here.
We'll talk about billy goating. Pavlik doesn't want to see that. He was cut over both eyes 3 fights ago.
Pavlik landing a lot of clean shots. Hey, Teddy, so in the maturation of a fighter, especially a young fighter, how do you get used to taking shots?
I don't want my guy to get used to it. You know, one time, I remember they asked a great old trainer named Customato, they said, you know, you still haven't found out if he has a real good chin yet. And he said, I hope I never find out.
Right.
I hope he does what good fighters are supposed to do, get away from it. But fighters understand they're sparring. They start at a young age. Usually, you got a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the great fighters of our time, one of the great fighters of all time. You know, he started when he was 10 years old. And so the abnormal becomes the normal. I mean, where the normal is to go out there and push around on a basketball court, maybe a few elbows, stray a little bit here and there. That's the normal. But in boxing, the normal is get away from punches and deal with punches.
That's why I've always admired fighters, because this is a gladiator way to make a living.
Yeah, sure.
I always say to myself, what I admire is I look at them and say, could I possibly even endure, withstand any of this? And the answer is no.
Not at all. I agree.
You see Sigmon getting low and then coming up with that head. You know, I don't know what was on in his mind. I don't know what's in his heart and his conscience, but it looked like maybe he was doing a little billy goat there.
Yeah, you can see that coming in the last round. Let's look at the CompuBox numbers as we start the 5th round, scheduled for 10 between Pavlik and Sigmon. These are the punches through 4 rounds. CompuBox has it 89-41 on connects in favor of Pavlik. Joe Tessitore, Teddy Atlas, and NBA analyst and boxing enthusiast Jalen Rose with us ringside. Detroit's Jalen Rose. You have the Jalen Rose Academy in Detroit. I know you're very proud of that. Both of you guys, with your efforts in your hometowns to better serve the youth from where you come from, I give you so much respect. Teddy, with your program, we have a U.S. Olympian that's coming out of your gym. And Jalen, with what you're doing in inner city Detroit with your academy, outstanding work.
Thank you very much. Tuition-free public charter high school, the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. Teddy, you would appreciate this. Our students have a longer school day. They go to 4:30 p.m. They go a longer school year, 211 days. We even have 6 times during the school year where they have Saturday school.
That's great. I mean, you know, education is the bedrock of the future. You know, these kids are all trying to be basketball players, become world champion boxers, world champion baseball players, football players, and that's great. Aspire to that. Go after that. But prepare yourself for the real world, too. Prepare yourself for other things. Prepare yourself with an education. And I always say to the fighters in our gyms, you know, I say, son, you're 15 years old, you're 16 years old, you're 14 years old. You're at a great point in your life. You don't have any great responsibilities. You just have to go to school right now. If you don't have the discipline right now to embrace that, how are you going to have the discipline to be a world champion fighter in a ring when someone's throwing punches at you? How are you going to have the discipline to be an NBA player if you can't, at that point in your life, put everything into school?
And it's always a great story when you can use your professional sport, high school, college, whatever level that you're performing athletics at, as an introduction. And by the way, Cujo's face is not looking good, guys. I think this one's going to be about over.
I think the corner needs to be ready.
There's a lot of blood coming from the nose and mouth of Scott Sigmon because Pavlik's been flush with the right hand. And he's talking to him. He's still talking to Pavlik.
Well, give Sigmon credit. I mean, he got the fight he wanted, and he's behaved like a fighter. You know, he doesn't have the talent. I said that right from the beginning, to be in there with the former world champion. But he's had plenty of heart to hang around. But I think the corner needs to start showing heart now and responsibility and just be ready to stop this fight. And the referee should be ready.
He has taken a lot of right hands from Pavlik right now, trying to stay on the inside, not be at the end of those punches. He's game, but let's follow him back to that red corner as the doctors will look at him, and let's listen in.
What are you telling me?
He's not going to stop me.
I know he's not going to stop me. Okay. He doesn't know that yet. We know that.
I feel bad.
He can't stop. Good.
I have no water.
Okay. Good? It's good. All right, okay.
I could do.
Doing good. He's frustrated. He's taking care of it.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good.
What's that throw?
Here's the end of the round when he was talking to Pavlik through the blood and those series of right hands. Great exchange between Sigmon and his cornerman after the round. He walked over. He said, he's not going to stop me. His cornerman said, we know that. He doesn't know that.
And I really appreciate the fact that while Sigmon won't win this fight, he continues to keep coming.
He's game. Tough kid.
He behaves like a athlete. He behaves like an athlete in this kind of position, a fighter.
You have to make a decision to do that. A lot of guys don't.
And there's a level of toughness, endurance, but also resolve there, gentlemen, because a weaker man falls to his knees. And it takes courage to stand in this squared circle and to trade punches for a living.
It sure does. You know, there's a lot of ways you can find a reason or an excuse to lay down, as you just said. You know, he's got to hit enough punches where he could do that, but he's making the choice to overcome that. And that's kind of what we use boxing for with our kids, and I'm sure in your programs, is that we tell them that, you know, in life, there's a pile on the left and there's a pile on the right. The pile on the left is a pile of excuses. They're there. Go ahead, grab them. You know, bad home life. You know, I got hit. I got dropped to my knees, whatever. They're all there. But then there's a pile on the right. Reasons and decisions to go forward to make something of yourself.
And that's what I always appreciated about sports, is the life lessons to come with it. The sacrifice, the work ethic, the discipline. You have to be intelligent. Break down film of your opponent. Learn the strengths and weaknesses. Be able to adjust on the fly. How do you deal with success? How do you deal with failure?
The front of Scott Sigmon right now is just painted red. The nose, the mouth, and he's leaning up against Pavlik, who's peppering him with short right hands, with uppercuts, touching him to the body, and Sigmon just stands in front and tries and tries. A moment to take a breath and right back to business.
Mickey Ward, of course, have put on air plenty of time, fought those historic fights with Arturo Gatti. His signature punch with guys that had good chins was the left hook to the body. You know, even guys with good chins, they'd start to wilt a little bit with that body shot. If I'm in the corner of Pavlik, I'm telling him, go to that left hook downstairs to the liver. Use that more. We know he takes a good punch upstairs. Go downstairs a little more.
You remember when Pavlik said to us in the locker room earlier tonight, I'm going to hurt this kid. I'm going to punish him. Look at that face of Sigmon right now.
And he's peppering him. It doesn't look, guys, like he's really going for that.
No, that's the point, right?
Hard shot.
He just wants to keep touching him and touching him and touching him and punishing him. He doesn't want to get rid of him.
Well, you're talking about Muhammad Ali in there with Terrell?
Yep.
When he kept telling him, call me my right name. Don't call me Cassius Clay. Call me Ali.
And he paid the price, right, Teddy?
He did.
And right now, Sigmon's paying that price. Take a short break. Be right back. Next week, Mike Dallas Jr., prospect that we've seen come up on Friday Night Fights. He'll be in our main event, 9 o'clock start against 27-win veteran Javier Castro. That's next week on Friday Night Fights, as we have been enjoying the action here from the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Round number 7 of our main event. Recent middleweight champion of the world, Kelly Pavlik, putting a hurt on the game tough Scott Sigmon. Joe Tessitore, Teddy Atlas, and our NBA analyst and boxing enthusiast, who's also been working some of the shows here in Vegas in recent years for Top Rank, Jalen Rose, in town for Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley. Teddy, I thought you gave a great breakdown in our studio segment tonight of the pluses and minuses when you look at Timothy Bradley, talking about his speed, determination, the fact he doesn't know how to lose, but then saying, but being in the middle makes you a good target for a straight left hand.
Yeah, that southpaw left hand. You know, I mean, I think part of the hopes for Bradley is, of course, his confidence. Doesn't know how to lose, undefeated, his preparation, his mindset. He's a tough guy. He's been on the floor. He's behaved like a fighter. He's gotten off the floor and kept his title. But I think if the title's going to change, if there's going to be a big upset, it's going to be because of the timing. That Bradley takes advantage of maybe a tumultuous time right now in Manny Pacquiao's life. that maybe some things aren't right mentally. You know, he's had some marital problems. It's been talked about. It's been talk about he owes his promoter money, that his promoter had to actually front him money, actually had to give him advance money because he's gone through it with his talks about gambling, things like that. Just maybe mentally, he's right for the picking. We're going to find out tomorrow night. And right now, what we're finding out is that Sigmon hasn't won a round, but I think he's won some fans by just showing the kind. I know he's won a fan next to me, and Jalen Rose, just showing his kind of heart, his kind of determination. And on the other side of the ledger, Pavlik, you know, a lot of people are going to say he's not ready for a world title. You know, that he had to take this many rounds with a guy that maybe shouldn't have been in there with him as far as talent.
Jay Nady's bringing over the ringside physician to take a look at that battered face of Scott Sigmon.
And Sigmon on social media did a very good job of antagonizing Pavlik for this fight.
That was the setup for the fight, and it's the reason his face looks like that right now.
I wonder now if he's going to like the Ghost on Facebook, or will he get blocked on Twitter?
He'll be unfriended, and he'll be Twitter silent for a few days here.
Again, you're going to see, even though he's been dominant performance by Pavlik, you can see some of the things that he still has to improve. You know, there's been times where he's gone straight back, caught a couple shots, times where he's disconnected, defense and offense, not let him flow a little bit. But for the most part, it's been Pavlik.
Break.
Fight is over. At the end of the 7th, they went over to the corner of Scott Sigmon. They looked him over, and they waved it off. He was game. He stood in there. He was battered and bloodied, but there was no point to going on as that cut over the right eye opened up and worsened, and Jay Nady said, I have seen enough. Kelly Pavlik, a TKO winner.
Well, he got a workout, you know, and I'm taking nothing away from the tremendous heart shown by Sigmon, but as we said earlier, only one guy was going to win this fight, as far as I thought. And Pavlik, probably his people were probably satisfied. Maybe not that he scared anybody, that he's going to jump right back and become a world champion, or he was scintillating, but he got work, he got rounds. He got an opportunity to work on things that he's been learning in the gym with his new trainer, Robert Garcia.
Let's send it up to the ring to Lupe Contreras.
Called the halt of this bout upon the conclusion of round number 7. Your winner, by way of technical knockout, Kelly the Ghost Pavlik.
So Kelly Pavlik, 39th win, 34th TKO. Jalen, good to be with you here ringside.
A pleasure. Thank you guys for carrying
ESPN
me.
executives just called. They want to know if you can do a super regional baseball. No, you got another notch on the belt. The resume's sticking. You've done boxing now. Did you enjoy yourself?
I had a great time. You guys carried me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And what a great fight. Pavlik put on a very good show. I know he's going to feel good about this performance.
Yeah, I think he got the work that he needs. You know, he's been off a little bit. He's been inactive, of course, with some of the problems in his personal life, and he needed rounds.
So what do you think is next for him?
You know, I think what they're going to do is probably take another fight. If I was them, I'd take him off TV, where while he's working out the kinks, nobody sees him. And let him get one more with a durable guy, a guy with more talent, one or two more, and then look for a good spot. Look for somebody that's meaningful.
Jalen, enjoy Pacquiao Bradley. Tomorrow night we'll see you down the road, and we will see Kelly Pavlik sitting right next to us when we return. A quick break, and then you will hear from the former middleweight champ. ESPN Friday Night Fights is presented by Corona Extra, proud sponsor of Friday Night Fights, and as always encourages you to relax responsibly. And in part by new Just for Men Auto Stop. Knocks out the gray, better than ever. Busy night on the Vegas Strip. It is a boxing weekend. Pacquiao, Bradley, and tonight Kelly Pavlik was the star, but our punch of the night brought to you by Just for Men Auto Stop, the undefeated prospect, Jesse Magdaleno, Teddy.
The southpaw, Jesse Magdaleno, with that left hand, that power punch, turning into it, catching his opponent, going straight back.
And now we are glad to be joined ringside by Kelly Pavlik, the former middleweight champion of the world, now a contender at 168 pounds. When I visited with you just before you went into the ring, we talked about Scott Sigmon. And listen, you said, I'm going to hurt this kid.
Yeah.
That you didn't like what happened pre-fight, the lead up to this fight. You bloodied him, you battered him all night long, scoring a TKO at the end of 7.
Yeah, you know, and I wish I could have done a little better. I mean, I did what I could do. I went in and I beat the kid to a pulp. I give him credit, though. The kid kept coming. I mean, he could take a punch, he could take a great body shot. And, you know, I stayed on the inside a little too long, just thinking he was going to get tired. Kid was in shape. And, but, you know, after that, you seen Robert kept telling me in the corner, you know, use your distance. Start, you know, keep him off the outside. He hits you, bounce him off with your shoulder, step back and fire to right. And we started fighting that the round before I stopped him. You know, he started finding my mark. I was doing good to the body, but I abandoned that a little bit throughout the fight. I think if I had stayed down there more, that this fight would have been over a little earlier.
Let's have Teddy grade you out. Teddy?
No, obviously you were much more talented than this kid. We knew that going in. You got rounds. You wanted to get rounds.
Yeah.
A chance to work on the things you're working with your new trainer. And I know this happens with fighters sometimes, was there any thought early on, maybe carry him a little bit, get some rounds?
You know what? No, actually there wasn't. To be honest with you, Ted, until about the 3rd round, I said, I seen this kid could take a good shot. And I go, you know what? He don't got no power, nothing to even make me be concerned. So I stayed on the inside. And that's where I get, you know, you eventually
Did you get too comfortable knowing that you had such an advantage of talent?
Yeah, and you know what? That's how you pick up bad habits. And, you know, I wanted to get away from that. And that's why Robert kept telling me in the corner, keep your reach, you know, get him on the outside. He comes in, takes a step back, fire the jab. One thing I did work on that we've been working on in training is my uppercuts. I'm a tall fighter, but we've been working on bending, you know, and getting them uppercuts in there and body shots. And we did that well, but watch the film, go back home and, you know, change, come back next time and change things like that. But this kid comes, that's the only way he's going to fight, and he's going to give everything he has with his chest, his head in your chest. So we did what we had to do.
Where do you think you are, Kelly, in terms of the schedule that you want to keep to get back to fighting for a title at 168 pounds?
You know, it's a loaded weight division. I mean, every which way you look, prospects, world champions, it's loaded. You know, next fight's going to have to be, I want a big fight the next fight.
You want a big fight the very next
fight? Yeah, not saying world title, but I got to make that move. Okay. I've been in there with the Hopkins, Taylors twice, the Martinez's, and this is my 2nd fight back now. You know, if it's not a world title or a top 5 opponent, you know, you got to get me somebody I think that's respectable, because if not only that, for my own personal sake, but I think the media will, you know, come down hard on me for that too. So it's that time, you know, my 41st fight. Yeah, I don't think there's any more time for these type of tune-ups. I think it's time to make that step. It don't have to be a world title fight, and it don't have to be a top 5 fighter, but it has to be something bigger on a bigger stage.
So you feel good physically and mentally. Obviously, you dealt with, you know, the personal issues a year and a half ago, and you feel like you're ready now for that jump to where you were.
Yeah, you know, I think I've showed that too. You know, I made that move to come out to Oxnard to get away from my hometown and, you know, to abandon my kids and my wife, you know, for training camp. My daughter, next camp, will be able to come out because she's out of school, but with the kids being in school and everything else, I was out there. So that showed my dedication, and I went home after my fight against Jaco, and I was back out here in Oxnard for, you know, 2 weeks later. So that's showing right there that I want to keep this going. I don't want to miss too much training, and let's get this career back on track and moving on a fast rate.
Good for you. Kelly, congratulations. I know you're going to enjoy your Vegas weekend, taking Pacquiao Bradley with your wife. Yep. We look to see you down the road and continuing covering your comeback. Kelly Pavlik, 39th win of his career, 34th knockout, a TKO victory tonight over Scott Sigmon. Next